Hello everybody. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial in OBS about how to use all of these different sources. So let's just get right into it, and let's start with audio input capture. This is just going to capture a microphone. So I'm just going to create new here, click OK, device, and then it'll show all of your microphones that you have. So this is the only microphone I have, so I can turn it on, and then it will start to capture this. Next up, we have audio output capture. This is going to capture what is being outputted to a capture such as headphones or a speaker. So let's create new here, and then we can see all of our headphones and speakers. So we can choose one of them, and then you will hear whatever audio is being outputted to that device. Next up is the browser source. You can find a browser source from things like Streamlabs if you watch my previous tutorials on how to make a chat box in Twitch and how to make alerts in Twitch. Then you will know how to get this link. So I'm going to put my link in here, and just by putting it in there it's going to look like nothing happened, but I can send a test, and then you can see it just worked over here. Next up we have a color source. So let's create that. This one is basically just a colored rectangle. So that we can change it. Let's have it be this blue. Click OK. You can also use this selection over here to create your own color, or type in the HTML code, and then let's click OK and OK. And you can drag it at a corner or a side here. It'll become a square unless you hold shift. If you hold shift, you can drag it however you want. So we can just put it like that. Make this like this. We can do whatever we want here. And that's all that the color source is. Next up is display capture. This is going to capture one of your displays or one of your monitors. So let's call this one right, and let's click OK, and then we can choose what monitor we want. So I'm going to just choose this display one. You can choose if you want to capture your cursor or not. I do. You can click OK. You can see it's capturing the same screen. Now with display capture, you're going to see everything that's on that display. So if I drag this down, you can see my desktop background. You can see the title up here with these X's, and you can also see the taskbar down there if you have it enabled. Next up we have game capture, which is specifically made for capturing full screen programs. So if you're capturing a full screen program or a full screen game, then let's just click OK. Mode, I'm going to do capture a specific window, and then we can choose our window. So here I've chosen Binding of Isaac, and I'm just going to click OK here. I'm going to have my capture cursor on, and now you can see it's over here. That's because it's not full screen for me. If I make it full screen, then here we go, now it's filling up my whole screen. Now this is different than the display capture, because if I unfull screen from this game, you can see it's just black in the background. You cannot see what is behind. So if I have any private information there, my viewers aren't going to be able to see that. Where now if I turn on the display capture, I'm just going to use this existing one and turn off the game capture. When I unfull screen, first off it is much laggier, so it takes some time to update. When I unfull screen, you can see it just has my entire background here. So if I have any private information, you'd be able to see that here. And then let's jump to the window capture, which is the last type of capture. The window capture will just capture one specific window. Let's turn it on. You can see here's just the Binding of Isaac open. I can move this wherever I want. However, let's turn off the other capture. When I make this full screen, you can see it's not working. It does not know how to handle full screen programs. So that's why you need the game capture. So now that we've gone through the captures, let's keep going to image. Image is pretty self-explanatory. You can just choose an image. So here I have this FL Studio picture, and then we can just drag it around. And here's our image. Next we have image slideshow, where we can just put in multiple images, and then it will automatically switch between them. So we can click this plus on image files. You might have to scroll down. We can either add just files individually, or we can add a whole folder. So here's this whole folder I've selected. and then you'll see it'll just flip through them. If I go back into the settings, you can change the amount of time which is in between the slides. If I just want it to be really quick, 1000, that's 1 second. So each second it'll switch. Next we have the input history. Input history is going to put what keys you're pressing on the screen. I'm just going to keep it plain text, but you could also download a pack that has key icons, or you can create your own. However, there is some coding involved, so it can be a little bit difficult, so I'm just going to keep it to plain text, and I'm going to move this over here, and then when I press buttons on my keyboard, you can see it says what I'm pressing. So if I want to press multiple keys too, that also works. And then alternatively, there is input overlay, which is pretty similar, except for you can have buttons on the screen and then they will highlight when you have them pressed down. Now it is required to have an image overlay file and a config file, and again they can be a little tricky to create, so I recommend just downloading one offline. But I have downloaded one, and here it is. I'm going to move it down here. And now you can see when I press these buttons, they light up. So if you're a speedrunner, this is probably the one you want if you want to have your key presses shown. And moving right along, we have media source, which is basically just going to play a video. So we can choose a video in browse. So here I have my media source. I'm going to unmute it, and then you can hear the music playing. Now keep in mind, when you're using your media source, you will not be able to hear the sound, but your viewers will be able to hear the sound. So if you're recording a video, it will have the sound in the video, but when you're making the video, you cannot hear the sound. And very similar to media source, we have VLC video source. VLC video source, you must have the VLC program installed on your computer. However, now there is a playlist that you can put multiple videos on, and you can also loop and shuffle the playlist, and it accepts more file formats. So if you have weird video formats, this will accept it. Then next, let's jump back up to scene. And here in scene, we can simply put one of our scenes inside this scene. So let's put right monitor here. So here I have this scene capture. Let's turn it down a bit. So here we have a scene in a scene. And if I go into this scene, let's add a color source. Just make it white like this and move it around. Then when I go switch back to scene 2, you can see it is updated. Next we have text, and text is very simple. You just put in whatever you want, select font, choose what you want, choose the size, click OK, and then here you have your text. Now sometimes when you make it bigger, it can get very low quality, so I recommend just creating an image in something like Photoshop that has your text in it, and then you can just add an image source here. And then the last one we have here that we haven't covered yet is video capture device, which is just going to capture a camera like a webcam. So if you have a webcam, you can add this and then set up your device there. However, I do not have a webcam, so I cannot show you that today. But if you want a webcam or a face cam on your video, this is where you would want to set it up. And then the last thing I'll show you here is we can add groups, which are basically little folders we can move these sources into. If we drag on them, we can move them into the group. Let's just add a color source, and we can also move that into the group. And then if we click this eye next to it, we can just turn off the whole group. So it can make it much simpler if you have multiple sources that you want to turn on and off at the same time. Also, you can hit the lock button here, and that will make it so you cannot move or drag around this thing, and so it's permanently stuck there. And if we lock the group, that means we have also locked all of the members of the group, so we cannot move any of that. If we unlock it, then now we can move it around, lock it, then we can't move it around. If we turn the eye off, then we can't see it. And that's all I have for this tutorial. If you learned something new, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And I'll see you in the next tutorial. See you.